And good evening, everybody. I'm Rick Dancer. Welcome to Get Real with Rick Dancer, where we talk about real issues, real people, real stories, and we don't get wrapped up in all the garbage. So tonight we have a great show. One of our clients is BS-free MD. And if you've never watched their podcast, they do some really innovative stuff. They're two doctors out of the Sweet Home, Lebanon area in Oregon. They're not afraid to address controversial issues. So what we do once in a while is we'll do a show with them, a joint show. And tonight we're doing one on gun safety and kids. And then what we do is I leave it to the end. I'll send you guys off and you can go listen to their podcast on Spotify or any other channel you want. They'll finish the show over there. But it's a really good chance for you to kind of see what they do, who they are, and also why they do what they do. You are watching another sponsor tonight that we have is Chris Dental Family Dentistry, where everyone is welcome. They are also into your civil liberties and your freedom of speech. So if you're looking for somebody who honors those kinds of things, and you need a good dentist, Dr. Bratland is your man, his staff, his crew. They get lots of people in there because they just want a dentist that's a dentist. They don't want all the political trappings that go with that. So Dr. Bratland is not like that, very open to people's conversation. So he is another one of our sponsors this evening. We'll be putting some other sponsors into the show a little bit later, but I want you to kind of see who's going on and what's happening. So I'll be interrupting the show at one point to give you a couple more sponsors on our list. But let's go right to Tim and Mayhan Heinmarsh. The doctors are in the house.
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of BS-free MD with your co-hosts, May and
Tim.
May and Tim Heinmarsh.
Doctors.
Yes.
You know, I worked hard for that degree and I deserve the respect. Like Barbara Boxer worked very hard to become a senator. So you should call her Senator Boxer.
All right.
Not just bit. I didn't say that, sorry.
All right, sir, doctor, whatever it is, your highness. This episode is one of our fun multi-guest episodes that we partner with Rick Dancer from the Get Real with Rick Dancer show. And he joins us along with one of our guests. And today we're talking about kids gun safety, and we're calling it Lock and Learn with Derek LeBlanc and Rick Dancer. And so as what we want to really get to in this episode is ask Derek some expertise and questions about because you're a professional firearms instructor and the founder and president of the Kids Safe Foundation. So welcome, Derek, to the show, and welcome back, Rick.
Hey, thanks, man. Hi, Derek. How you doing?
Great. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
All right. To start off, Derek, just kind of go through your creds. I know you've been very involved in firearm safety, in firearm training. May and I have done a little bit of that. So we're kind of at least, versed in that world. And then how that kind of moved into what your big passion, which is, childhood accident prevention, which obviously is something all of us, regardless of what we think about guns, where we are in the political spectrum, can 100% get behind.
Absolutely. So, a little bit about me. So I started shooting, my first BB gun I got at 3 years old from my father. I got my first shotgun at 5 years old. And so that kind of put me on this path to gun ownership and the love of the shooting sports. I used to hunt. And so back in 2013, I was put in a position where I needed a gun. And I didn't have a gun. And so I was in a very dangerous situation where I caught somebody breaking into my vehicle, and I put him on the ground. I fought with him for about 10 minutes until my girlfriend at the time came out and saved me with a shotgun. And so from that point, I became an advocate for our 2A rights, also became an instructor. And then, early 2014, I realized I was potentially exposing, kids to an accident inside the home. And so I started looking at programs, and, there's one by the NRA, but being from Eugene, Oregon, I was concerned about how well received it'd be. And so I started developing my own. So you guys, you guys know what I'm talking about.
I don't understand. What do you mean, Derek? Can you be more clear?
Well, I try to be very apolitical with my approach, and obviously NRA has done some good stuff in the past, but it's outdated, and so the development of our program took about 2 years, and we became a nonprofit in 2016, and now we've reached over 28,000 kids in 5 states, and taught them life-saving skills on what to do if they come across an unsecured firearm.
Oh, outstanding. So give us a little background as far as statistics on childhood firearm, accidents, deaths, etc. We're doctors, so we call morbidity and mortality. That's kind of how.
Absolutely. So, the trickiest part is where you get your data from. Obviously CDC, typically I like to cite them. FBI has good data. A lot of sources, people that don't necessarily, align with us politically, they like to cite the Gun Violence Archive as this reputable source. And I don't think it's a reputable source. I think there's a lot of information that's either misdirected or it's inflated, and so typically about right now we're losing on average about a kid a day across the country to a firearms accident, which I called an accident, but it's really negligence. It's how did that kid come in contact with the firearm? Why wasn't it properly stored, and why wasn't the kid educated? And so there's a lot that goes into it. Part of the problem with the CDC data is they're tracking kids, and they're classifying them up to 19 years old, so that's another thing that's really kind of skewing the data when it comes to how many kids are truly getting hurt with a firearm. And obviously we don't want to see a single kid get hurt. This is, I don't care if you're 19 or 6, I want to protect everyone. And so it's just, we have to be able to have this conversation in a way where the people with the experience can have the microphone, and it's not the special interest groups, it's not the red shirts, it's people that are actually involved in providing solutions to the safety of our kids. So that's what we're trying to do, and that's why we're glad to be here to kind of talk about that with you guys.
So what's the biggest mistake that people make? I mean, what causes the most incidents?
Typically it's complacency. It's always the parents that say it would never be my kid. And I hear that very, very, well, my kid wouldn't do that, but I would be concerned about your kid's friend doing that. And so your kid might be really, really good because you've trained your kid, you've worked with your kids, you talked to your kids about guns, but we don't know about Billy's dad. And Billy's dad might have the gun just laying around where Billy comes in contact with it and wants to show it to your son. And that's how somebody gets hurt. Happens far too often.
How do you work around that in the Kids Safe program or anywhere else? Like, how do you deal with, teaching kids what to do when they're with other kids, with guns that don't know how to handle them safely?
Well, so, part of what we're doing is I call them little force multipliers. So the kids that come into our classes, we're teaching them about how to be disciplined. We're teaching them about how to be future leaders. And so there's always things that come away from our classes. And so, we want to teach those kids that come to our classes directly that they're the force multipliers, that they can go out to their friends and teach their friends, no, we don't play with guns. Guns are not toys. They're tools. And so that way the whole goal of what we're trying to do is just take that novelty away and showcase that, guns are not the issue in society. It's a lack of education. There's a lack of prosecution issue. There's lots of different things that go into this big picture when we talk about, firearms in the country. We have an estimated 450 million guns in this country, 110 million responsible law-abiding citizens that own firearms in this country. And so, we just need people to just take a deep breath, just know that this is a very common thing, is to talk about guns and gun safety with your kids, and to kind of embrace that and make sure that, this is really, really important stuff to talk about. A good analogy would be like the hot burner. The hot burner, you tell your child not to touch the hot burner. What's the first thing they do? They grab that hot burner, so.
And we're going to get right back to that in just a second. A couple more sponsors I'd like to recognize here. Montana Oral Surgeons and Implant Center. They do dental implants, also do all kinds of surgery, extractions, that sort of thing, located in Helena, Great Falls, Bozeman, and also Butte, Montana. So they're one of our sponsors. And oh, there we go. I got the same one again. Sorry. Sometimes your fingers hit it the wrong way. Also here in Helena, Montana, Greg Hinkle, his lending team with Fairway Independent Mortgage Company. They do mortgage loans for anybody, homeowners, any kind of investment properties you're looking for. They work out of Washington, Oregon, and Montana. And I have a little ad here, a new program we're putting on with Albert Taylor, Endless Possibilities. And I think you're really going to like this, and then we'll get back to our show. But take a look at, there's so much misinformation about how to handle folks and deal with folks and understand people in the community of disabilities. And we're putting together a new education series that'll hopefully help. And we thought it would be best to just go to the source themselves and find out what they have to say. So here you go.
Don't be baby. Be me the other person.
Sometimes it's hard to know what to say or what to do.
I want to paint. Listen to me.
So why not go to the source and find out what they want?
Other person. I got paint in the airport.
Sometimes you have to listen a little more carefully.
Take the time, talk to me.
But in the end, they're just people like you and me.
I want to be my friend. Take the time, talk to me.
So listen to people like Richard and learn.
That's how our kids learn, unfortunately. But with a firearm, it could be fatal, and so that's why education is really, really important.
So can you give us like a few sort of specifics and principles that you use for teaching kids things? I mean, is there like sort of an outline, or is there like a step-by-step thing? Is it a multi-step monthly process? Like, how does this whole thing work?
So typically it's a 1 hour class when we're, in the classroom type setting, and we hold them at Cabela's. I was in a homeschool yesterday. I love the homeschools. Charter schools are really great, and I support them as best I can. And so we want to be a resource for those parents. And so we talk about, what to do if they come across that unsecured firearm. We also talk about how the firearm functions. So we're actually, because you'd be surprised how many kids get their information from either the internet, it could be video games, it could be social media, so it forms all of these young minds and their young world, their opinions on the world. And so, what we're trying to do is just showcase that this is reality. This is something that can be dangerous if you're not safe with it, but it's harmless if you treat it with respect. And so from that, we talk about online safety, video game violence, and how to, protect them from grooming, and trafficking and stuff like that. We also cover anti-bullying as well in the class. And so the whole goal is when the kids and the families leave our class is they have a better understanding of the threats that we're facing. And as technology evolves, so will these threats, and so will our message. Well, that's the benefit of being a small organization, is we can maneuver society and go where the threats are to the kids.
So why kids? I mean, I know you said, that something happened with your girlfriend, but is there I just get the feeling that something happened and there's a bigger picture here. Why do you start with kids like that and their families?
Well, because the Lord told me to do so. And it was in 2014. I was driving a dump truck in the middle of the night. I was working in a construction job, and there was a flash of light. And this flash of light said I had to protect the kids. And it was 3:00 in the morning. I didn't know what that meant. And so, but I woke up. Got off work at 6 a.m., went to bed till 8 a.m. and then I woke up like I was possessed. Like, what did that mean? And so that's, when I was talking about the research, looking at the NRA program, that's where that original idea came from, is from that flash of light. And that voice, I can't explain it, but it was something that directed me to get to this point. And so at this point, he's in control. And so I'm just here. He's given me the platforms and the microphones to speak into, so I can continue to do the work that we're doing.
Well, wow. I wasn't expecting that for an answer.
Yeah. It's a crazy part, Rick, about that story I don't know if you remember from 2020 where we had the riots and stuff like that, where downtown Eugene, that intersection where I came through in that dump truck was actually set on fire in the middle of the night one time. And so I went down there and kind of just, because it was like a really important part of this story for me. And I wanted to go document it, and I did my first blog post about it. But it was sad to see the destruction and the carnage that came out of that situation, but that was really where it all started for me.
Well, I mean, what comes to mind is God used a burning bush for Moses and a burning dump truck for you.
Absolutely.
Which is absolutely spectacular. The thing that comes to mind the second you started talking about this is, to put May and I are Christians, and to kind of put an evangelistic spin on this. The key is, in these kind of outreaches, you don't want to just preach to the choir. You really want to kind of reach the unchurched in the gun world. Mm-hmm. And so, why do we have relationship counseling or sex education or predator education or any of these things to keep kids safe? The reason is because they're getting educated whether you like it or not. Right. So they're going to movies and they're learning that guns are great because violence is really cool, and we celebrate violence because human beings are at their core to some degree violent. And they watch, like I remember the Saturday morning cartoons a million years ago when Bugs Bunny would shoot people, or Elmer Fudd or whatever. and then the video games just ratchets that up to another level, right? I mean, there's kids that have never touched a firearm, may never fire one in their entire life, that know more about specific weapons platforms than most of us that have owned half of those weapons platforms, because it's so detailed in the video game world. And so you sit there and you go, this is a no-brainer thing to get into schools, because you can strip the politics away. You could say, we don't care if you love or hate guns. They're there. There's 450 million of them in the United States. They're not going anywhere, regardless of what, politician X, Y, or Z tells you. So you might as well deal with the problem. Just like, you can put end racism all you want all over the fields of the NFL. There's still racist pieces of crap in the world because humans are fallen by nature. So have you had any hope with sort of reaching kind of the quote other side with regards to your mission?
Yeah, I mean, we've made some big successes. I mean, obviously I wrote a Senate bill in 2019 that would have authorized our program for all first graders in the public schools in Oregon. We tried again this year. I mean, our biggest challenge is people are fearful of what they don't understand. And so, it's our job, and that's why I'm glad to have this microphone here, is because it's our job to show them the value to their families, that even if they don't have guns, don't think for a second that your kids can't be exposed somewhere else. I mean, I see horror stories all the time about kids coming in contact at parks, on street corners. I've had kids that have found guns and couch cushions at play dates. I've had kids grab a rifle behind a door, and bring it out, that it's used for varmint control. So, we can no longer, with that many guns in society, we can no longer just keep our head in the sand and thinking this problem is never going to just go away. We have to actively do things that are different, that maybe people don't like or are afraid of because they've never had the experience, but we're proving that they do work. We have 28,000 kids through the program with 0 accidents, and that's, that says a lot. I want to reach 10 million kids or 20 million kids. That's how we move this needle in a way that we need it to go. And so it's just people, there's so much noise right now. There's so much noise, and the noise drowns out the people that are doing the work. And that's kind of the problem.
It's part of the problem too, Derek, that if you don't grow up in a home with guns, and then you're kind of afraid of them.
Absolutely.
I mean, I noticed this with myself and my wife. We have guns now, and we learned how to shoot them. We took a class. I mean, so we have all that. But I didn't grow up with them, and I still see it, and I keep it in a drawer. I have no kids in my house, and I keep it in my drawer, and I know, but I pull it out, and when I have to take it with me in case there's a bear or something like that, I'm not as comfortable with it. And I think that's what I love about what you do, is you're getting kids so that they understand the power it has, but the power that you have and where not to touch. And with me, it's still kind of a scary thing. And I bet there's a lot of parents like that as well. Is that kind of part of what you guys address?
Yeah, absolutely. The whole point is we want to be a trusted resource for those kids, for the parents. And we want to, because sometimes, like yesterday when I was in class in the homeschool, there was a couple parents that didn't have firearms in the home, which I kind of pull the crowd. I want to know kind of where people are at, so I know how to deliver the message. Because, when I'm showing an AR-15, I don't want to put it in the face of somebody to show that it's clear. Somebody that is afraid of that type of firearm. And so I have to be really mindful of my audience and respectful of them, and understand that we all have different experiences when it comes to this situation, but they're giving me an hour of their time. And so I'm going to give them an hour of my time and make sure that we're all on the same page when we leave. Whether you like or don't like, I'm still going to do what I need to do to make sure that you have the best experience you can have, even if you're fearful, so that we just got to have this normalize this conversation. That's all we're trying to do.
Well, and it's interesting how that works, because May, when I told her I was buying a pistol, she almost lost her complete mind. Now she's like, doesn't leave
part of it. She just lost part of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's right.
No, it says that is stupid. I hate guns. Guns are terrible. Like on and on. Right. I mean, typical Canadian, whatever. And now it's like she doesn't leave home without her trusty 380 feminine protection, shall we say.
Wow.
Yeah.
She's awesome. Badass. That girl's badass.
Yeah. I've even actually gone out in the dark when, someone drove up to our house unannounced on our property, and the kids and I were home and Tim was gone, and I did not like it because, they had the lights beaming into our giant picture windows just sitting there. Mm-hmm. So I went out packing. I told the kids, and, I had it kind of hidden, my hand in my back, and I'm like, eh.
Well, and then, of course, you told the kids, until you hear sounds of reloading, don't call the police.
But for me, it was a complete 180. And it wasn't until I kind of started to soften a little bit, but I took the class, and got my hands on this thing, which to me, and I understand, people that are fearful, you feel like it's a bomb that's going to go off in your hand. Like that's how in your brain you think this thing will just explode or randomly fire. And even now,
not unless you're Alec Baldwin.
True.
Sorry.
But for me, that's the psychological fear thing that, it's like a bomb that's just going to detonate whenever. And so until I learned to handle it like you would like a knife, a knife, it's not going to just fly around and cut people. You respect knives when you're using the tools. It's totally switched to the point now I'm a total convert. But back to, what I'm thinking of is with this program, I guess I can see the difference between, so there's hunter safety. I know so many people that have kids that have gone through kids hunter safety programs. So obviously this differs from that, and because hunter safety, I'm assuming, is more along the lines of how to stay safe in the woods, use your rifle, etc. This is quite different. Do the kids get to learn how to handle a gun when you're teaching them, or is it just sort of not a hands-on thing?
Yeah, so we have a couple different classes. We have the Kids Firearm Safety 1 class, which is, strictly accident prevention, which is what we did yesterday in that homeschool environment. And so with that class, we don't want them touching guns. We're teaching them what not to do. And typically, hunter safety, those kids are 10 to 12 years old when they're getting involved with hunter safety, and we're talking, we want our kids involved at 4 to 6, because that's when they're going to be most inquisitive. That's where they're going to be most vulnerable to an accident inside the home. And so that's why we're trying to get to those kids before that. And then we do offer live fire training for the kids as well. So we follow up with rimfire rifles, and so we get to reinforce the skills that we talk about in the first class with real guns on the range, under proper supervision. And we're teaching the parents how to teach their kids how to shoot. It's really such an amazing, wholesome environment for the kids to continue to grow. And, we realize that it's not for everybody. Sometimes, parents that are afraid of guns, they bring their kids one time just so their kids can understand the process of what happens when the gun goes off and the power that's involved with that. We're using rimfire, so it's not as intimidating like a centerfire rifle. but it gives them good repetitions and gives them a good foundation if they want to continue in the shooting sports, because now they know how this process works.
So Derek, you've said like a couple of times in here, we need to have this conversation. So define for me like the conversation and why the need for the conversation. What is that conversation? Because there's probably parents out here who don't, to people that don't have guns, but what is the conversation and why do we need to have it?
So right now, with what's happening, I don't know if you're watching what's happening nationally, there is a lot of talk about gun control. You have a lot of people that are fundraising off of the idea of gun control. And my response to that is we have 22,000 laws on the books already, and we're not implementing and enforcing them already. So why are we going to add another law? It's not going to work. So, but there's such an emotional reaction from both sides. There's the people that don't like guns, that are afraid of guns, that want to take the guns. And so there's so much vitriol associated with that. And then you have the other side that says, I enjoy my guns. I'm not committing a crime and I'm not going to give up my guns. And so, that's where I kind of feel like I'm in the middle, because I'm a man without a country, because I have this noise over here and I have this noise over here, and all I'm trying to do is say, if we talk to our kids and have an adult conversation with our kids about something that's a really important topic, this is how we're going to help society. And that's all I'm trying to do. And that's why, so it's just the divisiveness right now of the topic. And it doesn't need to be a divisive topic. We're okay. It's okay to not like guns. It's totally fine. That's your personal responsibility. It's your personal perception of guns. But I do have a right to have a firearm inside my home for lawful self-defense, or to educate my kids if I choose to do so. That's my right. I have a right to do so. And so, that's kind of what's being lost right now. It's just so much infighting. We don't need to fight about this topic. We just need to come together and understand that there's people out there that do care about the topic, and it's important to them and important to their organization. And, we just need to be able to offer our experience.
So if you get the kids to understand more safety, it's a way to counterbalance and maybe add to that conversation, right? Is that what I'm getting?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a way, because we want to take away the fear. And when I'm working with older, like teenagers, I see a lot of stuff that's coming from the teachers in the public schools that are talking about they're afraid of guns because they're being told. A lot of it's coming from social media, their friends, the
That's
people that don't have. So there's a definitely a push to really kind of demonize lawful gun ownership. And so I think that's kind of counterproductive to the safety of the kids, because if we demonize something that's completely normal, we make it less likely for the parents to educate those kids. And we could also show that that's actually makes those kids more vulnerable, because they don't have these life-saving skills that they need to be taught.
Well, what I kind of look at, my own beliefs, and, you take this to kind of the other side. So you think of, obviously there's all this stuff about sexuality that everyone is losing their marbles over. And some of it is completely insane, but some of it's not. And so, May and I, from our personal beliefs, we were abstinent till we got married. And most people would say, you are completely insane. That's crazy. And you sit there and you go, well, it worked for me, and it's a free country. And I'm not telling you that you have to obey my moral code.
Right.
But at the same time, when you go into a school and you teach an abstinence only class to 1,000 kids that have a wildly different moral upbringing than you, to not address the fact that, teenagers are going to have like lots of sex is kind of nuts. And it's kind of, and then, you use this example. The teachers are like, I'm scared of guns. Well, that's like me dressing up in my best, Hutterite costume and saying, I'm scared shitless of sex. Like, it doesn't matter what your fears are. It matters what the reality of the world that you live in is. I mean, it's most Amish people are probably way healthier. Most people aren't going to become Amish. I mean, that's the way it is. And so there's a pragmatic aspect to this that you can't forget. Kids are going to have sex, and there's 450 million guns. You're not going to make kids not have sex, and you're not going to make 450 million guns go away without kicking everyone's door down and essentially having, the Gestapo do it. It's impossible. So the only option left is educate yourself to keep your kids safe.
Well,
End
yeah,
of story.
because Tim, like what other topic? Well, nowadays we do this, but I mean, back in the day, when you're afraid of something, you don't avoid it, you learn about it.
Exactly.
And you learn how to respect it and treat it rather than just, if we just, because your point is, Tim, I love that. It's like, it's not going to go away. So you deal with it. And this is what Derek's talking about. We teach you how to not be afraid of it. So then you can still be a gun owner or a non-gun owner, but at least you're not afraid of it. So you can make an educated response rather than an off the handle, top of your, oh, they're bad. And, you know, because we really do have a culture who now believes that a gun by itself can kill a person. Guns kill. Guns cannot kill because this human thing called a finger has to pull the frickin' trigger. And we've created a culture of people that think that inanimate object laying on my bed can kill somebody. It can't kill somebody unless somebody picks it up and makes a choice, or in your case, what you're teaching them, so it's not an accidental choice to kill somebody. That's powerful. I love that. I mean, I think but why don't the educators want that? It's very interesting to me.
Well, we could put our tinfoil hats on and understand, you know, it's because
I have my see that?
No, you do. Okay, perfect.
Yeah, that's my tinfoil hat right there.
I feel that they don't want the truth getting out. They want to control this narrative in a way. So when people are afraid and uneducated, they're easier to be controlled. And so what we're doing is we're teaching kids gun safety. We're empowering our youth to make good, safe decisions. We're opening up their minds. And that, you know, that's dangerous for some people because those kids are less likely to be controlled going into the future.
So I want to know so obviously we're talking about fear of guns, don't like guns. And I want to know what are some of the misconceptions or things that drive the fear. Like what you said, is it the fear of it just going off? Like, I mean, it sounds dumb, but that's the kind of irrational fear that I had, like literally that this thing was so fragile that, you know, if I just touched it the wrong way, it would go off. Yeah. I mean, that's irrational, but that's just what happened. What are some of do you know what the barriers are when people like, I don't like guns, I'm afraid of them, like what they talk about? Yeah. What are those? Yeah.
So we call them hoplophobes, right? So hoplophobe is somebody that has a fear of inanimate object, which is a firearm. And so typically there's a lot of group thought here. There's no independent thinking. So a lot of it is they get information from either social media, their friends, it could be their peers, it could be a teacher. And so that's influencing that opinion. And I'm being told to be afraid of something and part of it is as we've become lazy. Like we don't do our own independent research. We just believe we're fed. And so, you know, that's what makes everything they talk about, you know, assault rifles. There's no such thing as an assault rifle. It's called an AR-15. It's a modern sporting rifle. AR does not stand for assault rifle. It stands for Armalite rifle. And so there's a lot of misinformation there. And so I always have one in every class. And I had a lady yesterday in class that asked me, why does anybody need one of those? And I was like, ooh, pick me, you know, and so I said, well, we have many reasons for this rifle. There's 40 million rifles in this country, semi-automatic rifles, and they're responsible for less than 1% of all violent crimes. So we're talking on average about 400 people lose their lives to a rifle every year, and that's of all rifles. And obviously we don't want to see anybody lose their lives, but it's not the big scary thing that everybody makes it out to be in the media. And so, you know, with that, we talk about, you know, that gun is great for hunting. It's great for sporting purposes. You can shoot 3-gun, you can compete with it. It's also great for home defense, you know, depending on that situation. You have a bear situation in Montana, you might need a 30-round magazine to help keep yourself safe. And so that's why this gun is it's more relevant now than it's really ever been in our history, you know, because what's happening, you know, when we saw what happened in 2020 with all the lockdowns and all of that stuff, you know, we had groups of people that were, you know, rioting. And so the whole point of this is giving us the ability to be able to protect ourselves if we need to be. And so it's not the big scary thing that it's made out to be. But it's something that is, you know, we just got to figure out how to keep some people from getting through the cracks and getting hold of these. I mean, there is an issue there. I can
Yeah.
admit that. You know,
And
I'm not going to be so tone deaf to say that, you know, there's people out there that have gotten them that shouldn't have them, but I don't know, you know, we already have checks in place, so I understand why these things are getting through the cracks.
So when you see Measure 114 pop up in Oregon, that's got to throw a little bit of fear in front of you, huh? That people won, that they responded the way they did and voted for it because of misinformation, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was.
Explain Measure 114 for our listeners that are not from this state or even country. What's going on?
So Measure 114 was a voter approved initiative. It was written by the Giffords PAC. And so you know, if you're familiar with the Giffords, you know, the Giffords for gun safety, they're a big anti-gun group. And so they tasked Lift Every Voice Oregon with them gathering the necessary signatures to get this thing on the ballot. It got on the ballot last year, and it was passed by less than 1%. It was about 0.6% in Oregon. And so what this did is this is, you know, now it's been challenged in court multiple times, but what it does is it creates a permit to purchase situation. And it also makes basically every magazine that has a detachable base plate illegal under this law. And so it makes, you know, good people criminals overnight if this thing goes into effect. And the way it was sold was totally misinformation. And there was a lot of it's going to save lives, you know, it's going to do all these magical things, yet the law enforcement does not have a way to enforce. Law enforcement does not have the staffing to even do what's required of them under the statute, you know. So we're probably over $2 million in litigation costs at this point, and we've done nothing to save an actual life, and we're taking money away from, you know, drug abuse and mental health issues and the homelessness. So it's been a really, really bad thing for Oregon.
So with the permit though, you get a free COVID shot, don't you? Because that's also safe and effective.
Oh God.
Oh, really? I'll have to add that to my 10 that I already have.
Tim, it's not the shot; it's a booster.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, shot is
because everybody's already
on vaccine all in one sentence.
God, and you're a doctor.
I know.
So
I just play one on TV.
A news anchor is telling you doctoral things.
Yeah.
My job never ends, you know? Cough.
Job security.
There you go. I like to play devil's advocate. And so if I was someone from the other side and still thinking this cute little Tiffany colored gun that I do own now is bad, the people that see these ARs or think, you know, automatic assault rifles, etc. There, I guess in my head, you know, you can say, all right, this is why we have them. This is how they work. They're really not that dangerous. But do you think that these people are thinking, well, I've seen Rambo. I watched all these shows on TV. I've seen these video games. And to me, it looks like if it gets in the hands of the wrong person, it's a way for them to kill more people quickly. And we see school mass shootings and things happening all the time, that the wrong people get a hold of this and you just can kill. It's more dangerous than it is positively helpful. Does that ever come up?
So hold that thought, Derek, just a second. This is a really good place. What part of what I want you guys to do is see Tim and May and understand what they do. And this is a great place to cut me off. And you guys go over to Tim and May, to BS Free MD, if you're watching this on Rick Dancer, Get Real with Rick Dancer, and you go over to their show, you can watch the continuation. Because I didn't want to go. I just it's 33 minutes. I want to stay. This is like such a great conversation. But I want my viewers to go watch Tim and May and see what they're doing. So I'll have some of this on my show, but the rest of it, to get all the rest of the juicy details, they'll need to go over to BS Free MD and find out more.
Well, you could stay, Rick, and just keep quiet, but you know, you and Tim.
Rick Dancer stays.
Yeah, that'll happen.
Quiet. That is not going to happen. Thank you, Derek. That was so interesting, and I really hope you good luck with your program. And Tim and May, I'll see you next week. But take me out. I know. Beam me up, Scotty.
Bye.
All right, so I've been beamed out. But anyway, that is the point. They go on for, I think, another 20 or 30 minutes. And so go to BS Free MD. You'll find them on Rumble. You'll find them on Spotify. Tim and May are doing some really cool stuff, and you'll get all that conversation. Plus, they can put out a little more than I can because they're not as on Facebook as much, and so they don't have the censorship from Rumble and people like that. So check them out on Spotify, and it's well worth your time to watch their show. All right, that's it for this edition of Get Real with Rick Dancer. Please share this on your page. Let other people know what's going on. And we're doing some really big numbers on our websites, all of the sites but Facebook. No one's hanging out there anymore. People are turning from Mr. Zuckerberg. They don't want to be involved with him anymore. So, and we're like them. So we're relying less and less on this. So go to our website, rickdancer.com. You can find us on YouTube at Rick Dancer TV. You can find us on Rumble at Get Real with Rick Dancer, and Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, all of them. And you'll still find us on Facebook, but not many people are hanging out there anymore. All right, that's it. We'll see you later. And thanks to our sponsors, all of our sponsors, Cristiano Family Dentistry, Montana Oral Surgeons and Implant Center, Fairway Independent Mortgage, Greg Hinkle, love you, man, and Albert Taylor, and also, of course, BS Free MD. All right, have a good day.